show you how to set up your HDTV or even a regular TV using a DVD player and a disc. In this case, we're using Disney's The Incredibles. It includes a THX setup pattern that gives you specific patterns for adjusting things like contrast, brightness, color and tint, and sharpness. Step 1, you need to warm the TV up. Allow enough time for the TV to come up to operating temperature. Usually about a half an hour is plenty of time for all TVs. LCDs tend to be a little bit quicker. CRTs and plasma displays tend to take a little longer. It's time for step 2. Let's start adjusting. Let's go into a setup. For the standard THX setup pattern that you'll see on just about every DVD out there, the very first thing they ask you to adjust is contrast. This pattern, 8 boxes, shades of white or gray, starting with the peak white and going down slightly. You should be able to see all 8 boxes. Now, if you can't, that means contrast is set too high and you need to back it down.
Precisely.
Now, if you saw significant color shifting as well as you move it towards 100%, you would probably want to back it down until you see a more even shift from the brightest white to a slightly darker gray. But as long as you can see all 8, you're doing pretty well. This is arguably, to me, the most important part, and this is where you set brightness, aka black level. This is the infamous black level setup on the THX test pattern. Now this is where we'll adjust brightness. Essentially what we're looking at is a THX logo in the middle, and if your DVD player is exceptional and the TV's allowing it, you'll see a drop shadow behind the THX. That'll make this pattern very easy to use for adjusting brightness. We can then count off the number of squares we have at the top, or they're also along the bottom as well. And by lowering the brightness until you can just barely see the 7th one, we'll make it disappear and then we'll make it come back. And when you can barely see that 7th square, you know you've got brightness set pretty close, pretty accurately. Now with brightness set properly, you want to go back and check contrast levels real quick because making adjustments, well, there's some interactivity between the two controls. This is the latest generation THX test pattern that's available on The Incredibles as well as Toy Story and Toy Story 2. The nice thing about it, it's one screen that allows you to do the brightness and the contrast settings at once. And in a sense, that's probably the best way to do it. Don't be afraid of the crazy background patterns and things like that. You still have that same contrast setup where you should see definition 8 boxes, as well as a flashing brightness pattern. And also both patterns, the brightness and the contrast settings, are flashing to make them easier to see. We have brightness set right. Contrast is still providing the detail we're looking for, all 8 squares. Now we can go on to color and tint.
Any problem it's confronted with.
I am not happy with the THX pattern for this. It is difficult to use, and at this point, you can either stop right now, brightness and contrast being arguably the 2 most important settings you can get right on the TV. Once those are set, you're going to see a dramatic difference already. Getting color and tint right, it's more of a challenge, and it gets a little geeky, so hang in there. In order to set brightness and contrast, well, you didn't need any special devices. You could just do that by looking at it. And in a sense, you can do color and tint the same way, but it requires the use of blue filters. This is actually just looks like 3D glasses. Oh yeah. Except in this case, they're just blue tinted pieces of plastic that you have to stare through to look at this particular pattern. And when you do, well, you can then make color and tint adjustments. What you're trying to do with the blue filter on is balance the luminance, or how bright the individual letters are. In the case of color, you want the blue and the white to be the same level of brightness. And in the case of tint, you want the magenta and the cyan to be the same level of brightness. And by wearing a blue filter, you essentially make that all one thing, and you can balance them using the color and the tint controls. It's tricky, but you can do it. Tint on most TVs is set accurately at the factory. I've seen some cheap TVs that the tint is way out of whack, but generally speaking, if you can at least get the color set right, you don't have to worry about tint too much. Okay, if step 3 was color and tint, well, step 4 would be just taking a look at the overall performance of the display, in a sense. Hey, monitor performance. This is a good pattern to use for sharpness settings, the bane of my existence. Most TVs are set up with sharpness settings cranked way up. Sharp edges grab your eyes, and in the store that might be important, but it's not realistic. Most sharpening that takes place on a TV is actually an edge enhancement. It's simply putting a bright outline around an object. It's not part of the original signal. It's not part of the original video. It's just something the TV is doing to make things pop. It's not realistic, and you want to turn it down, but at the same point you don't want to take it too low and sacrifice sharpness. For a good step 5, regardless of what kind of TV you have, you want to make sure that the aspect ratio is right, the shape of the picture to match the shape of the TV. In this case, we have a 16:9 widescreen TV. We want to make sure that when we put widescreen material on it, it's actually scaled properly, and our circles look like circles. Here's an anamorphic 16:9 circle. This should be perfect. It should be right. You should be able to see both the borders. This ensures that, okay, the DVD player set up right, the TV set up right. We know we're seeing the whole picture. That's really what you want. And the shape's correct. You don't want Oompa Loompas. You don't want stretched out people. That's how it should look. Once you've made all of your adjustments, everything's set up the way you did, you went through the test patterns, everything looks good, you're given a final test clip, a portion of the movie itself that you can look at to verify that all those changes that you made are producing a better looking picture. Now, for this 15-second clip or however long it is, you get to verify that all the changes you made, everything looks right. Visually, it's arguably one of the most demanding scenes in the movie in terms of light and dark detail, color representation, sharpness, and the aspect ratio, of course. But if this portion looks right, to your eyes, the rest of the movie should look great. Now that we have the brightness, contrast, sharpness, color, and tint set up right, well, there's nothing left to do but sit back and enjoy the best movie experience you can get out of your TV.
Showtime.
For PCMag.com, I'm Robert Heron.